Hey guys, welcome to this very fun episode of TFL Car Chat. And Tommy, what are we going to be talking about today?
We are talking about overlooked off-roaders, and let me give you the premise here, Dad, because it actually starts with a story.
Okay, what's the story?
So I got married at the end of April, and then my brand new wife and I went on a mini moon.
Like a mini honeymoon.
A mini honeymoon, exactly, to Moab, Utah. Just a 3-day trip. She had never been to Moab, one of my favorite places in the world.
And you took a mini, so it was the mini moon.
No, I was not in a mini, I was in an off-roader. And the idea was I would show her some trails, which I'm not sure she really enjoyed all that much, although she liked Hell's Revenge quite a bit. But here is what we noticed. Start of June, kind of the high season in Moab, Utah, and I swear, every other vehicle out on the trail was either a third generation Toyota Tacoma.
I was going to guess Wrangler Bronco.
No, it was all Tacomas with the occasional 4Runner. It became a meme actually as we were cruising along in my Land Rover, where every time we'd see a truck, Morgan knows nothing about cars. I'd be like, Morgan, what's that? And she'd be like, Tacoma? And every single time she was correct. The number of third generation Tacomas out there truly blew my mind. We were in Chicken Corners, which is kind of a cruiser trail, and Hell's Revenge over the course of the day.
Well, I would say that Tacoma, whatever generation, isn't an overlooked off-roader.
Exactly, but it made me realize, and then also cruising around town, once we got off the trail, how many people go by the status quo when it comes to four-wheel drive and off-roaders. And there are 3 main vehicles, maybe 4 I'm talking about here, Tacomas, third gens, just selling a bajillion of them to people going off-road.
Or even 4th gen. I mean, it's just bazillion Tacomas, period.
4Runners, every 4Runner, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, whatever generation of 4Runner, there's a bajillion of them. Wranglers, obviously off-road everywhere, and now Broncos as well. But as I was cruising around in
Would you say JKs or TJs?
No, mostly JKs and JLs now.
Okay.
Yeah, but as I was cruising around in my LR3...
You forgot some.
Well, what did I forget?
I think Subarus. I think there's just a ton of Subarus out there, either Outbacks or Crosstreks. And maybe they're not, doing Hell's Revenge, but they're certainly everywhere in Moab.
You know why I didn't put them on my list?
Why?
Because when it comes to off-roading, even on the mild trail that is Hurrah Pass and Chicken Corners, I don't think I saw a single Subaru. All of the lifted Subarus were on the streets. So I am not going to call that an overlook.
Ouch.
Well, they were.
For all you Subaru owners, feel free to leave comments to Tommy, not myself.
No, you can leave them to, you can leave them to me. That's fine. Look, nothing against Subarus. I think they're pretty cool. But I hate to say it, there was one Subaru I saw out of every 25 Tacomas. And the rest of them were just on the road, which is fine. That's what they're built for.
And of course, we're not going to be talking about all the clapped out Silverados, F-150, Ram 1500s, because there's a lot of those too.
Yeah, so I thought it'd be cool to kind of have a quick discussion about some alternatives to the 4Runner, the Tacoma, the Wrangler, and the Bronco that are really, really good, can still be daily driven, will oftentimes save you a ton of money over the mainstream alternatives, and are just underappreciated.
Hey, podcast listeners and TFL Talk viewers. I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about a quick and simple way to sell your car or truck with the help of our new partner, Highroad. With Highroad's online portal, you enter your vehicle's VIN number or plate, mileage, and zip code, and you'll get competing offers from several qualified dealers in your area within seconds. You pick the best deal offered and follow through with the dealer to sell your car. No more managing scammy emails from buyers on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. No more time wasted on no-show buyers. No bait and switch with a "will you take a check" excuse from sketchy buyers. Now keep in mind, these offers will be for trade-in values of your vehicle. If you want to go through the hassle of getting more for your car, that's up to you. But if you want to sell your car hassle-free and fast, go to tflcar.com and click Sell Your Car in the navigation menu. Or click on the Highroad ad at the bottom of the website if you're on mobile, or click on the column if you're on a desktop. Highroad makes it easy, and we like easy.
All right, well, let's hit the list. What is number 1 on your list?
Well, I got to start with the vehicle that's pictured behind us. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening to the podcast, it is the Nissan Xterra. So these were sold over a few generations. And these are, of course, an SUV based on the Nissan Frontier pickup truck. So it's a body-on-frame SUV with a naturally aspirated V6, a couple of options in transmissions, and then a solid rear axle. This is the formula to have fun off-road while still being civilized on-road, and you never see them out on the trail.
Yeah, I agree. And then what made them cool is they kind of had the stadium seating, so you sat kind of higher in the second row than in the front row. There were various engine options. I think the one that people kind of lust after is a supercharged version of it.
Yeah.
Bafflingly, Nissan got rid of it just as the Overland craze was taking off. It was crazy because it's basically built on a Frontier, right? It's a Frontier without a bed.
So and I talked to someone who used to work at Nissan about this years later. They had left Nissan, were on to other things. Like, why did the Xterra die right as the four-wheel drive craze exploded in like the early 2010s to mid 2010s? And the reason comes down to cafe numbers.
Yeah, they were not thirsty. They were very thirsty. They were not fuel efficient.
And I don't fully understand this, so don't quote me on this, but as I understand, your fuel economy, your corporate average fuel economy numbers, which is a requirement now,
Yep.
right, depends not only on the type of vehicle, but the size of the vehicle. And as I understand it, the Frontier is in a different size class than the Xterra based on wheelbase and overall length. And the Xterra was really dragging down Nissan's corporate average fuel economy numbers because it was relatively short and stubby and is actually being judged in a different class than the Frontier. So that's why it went away. But let's talk about what these vehicles were like to drive.
Yeah, I can tell you that because I went all the way to Grand Junction to help my cousin, Laddie, actually buy one of these vehicles.
Sure.
Why I went to Grand Junction, why he bought it in Grand Junction is still a mystery to me because this was maybe 15, 20 years ago, there were plenty of them in Denver. But I can tell you a story. So he bought it, we drove it back, and then he decided to put a little bit of a lift on it, put bigger wheels and tires, and it looked so cool, so badass, but he never kept them on there because the fuel economy was just so horrendously bad.
And that is the downside of the Xterra, is they are super thirsty. But what's cool about these vehicles is you don't really have to do a lot with them to make them really capable.
Yeah,
so
rear locker standard.
Yeah, depending on the version,
Right.
Like a Pro 4X is going to have a e-locker in the rear. You can put decent sized tires on them, and A, I think they look great, really have aged super well. And B, they're super long lasting and reliable. Now, there were a couple of issues with this platform. Like when the generation you see me behind me, the final generation came out, there was this problem, as I understand it, with the coolant in the engine mixing with the fluid in the transmission and creating this milkshake that would do catastrophic damage to both. This was a problem, I think it was like 05, 06. Also a problem on
Frontier,
right. But as a platform, the aftermarket community is not as big as 4Runner FJ Cruiser, but the folks that drive them absolutely love and adore them. They go everywhere, super reliable. I mean, look, I think part of the reason they're not as maybe sought after as the 4Runner, largely due to the fact they don't have that Toyota badge on the front of them. They are a little cheaply made inside.
They're very plasticky.
Very plasticky, and people kind of looked at them as like, oh, if you can't afford a 4Runner, you buy an Xterra. That is a lot of the sentiment I heard when they were new. But whether or not you get an early generation with the kind of the bubbly headlight design, you can pick one of those up in good shape for $3,500, $4,000.
So here's the problem with them, okay? And I've been looking for them for a long time. I spend way too much of my time on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist just looking at old cars. And they were bought and they were driven to death. Everyone I see, has sat outside its whole life. Maybe wasn't off-roaded, it might be worse than that, but was just used as kind of a throwaway transportation because the first person either leased it or bought it and they took care of it, but by the time you get to 2024, this is a car that has now worked its way down the food chain, to the bottom rung where like young high school guys and gals are buying them, just either, you were in that part of your life not that long ago, right?
Well,
where you buy something with 250,000 miles and then you decide that it needs something and so you chop things off or you add things on kind of willy-nilly. All I'm saying is the ones that are out there, have very high miles and have been abused and put away wet and not maintained. And so I think while it is a hidden gem in some ways, I think finding that right one with low miles is going to be quite the challenge.
The problem is they were so depreciated for such a long time, they did fall into a category of folks that could afford them that couldn't afford a 4Runner, right? And because realistically, even the tattiest third-gen 4Runner never got down to like the $2,000-$3,000 territory.
Maybe $6,000, here in Colorado at least.
So the one I would go for is the later model Xterra with the Pro 4X, which had these really cool lights built into the roof rack on the roof. And what's cool about these, I actually talked to the guy in charge of putting the system together. So we have really strict rules in the US about lighting. And Nissan was trying to figure out a way that you could keep them covered to meet the laws and then only be able to activate with the high beams on. So they actually have in the covers these little sensors that are magnetic, which prevent them from coming on with the covers on, and it's all sorts of cool stuff. But yeah, Xterras are great. Same thing, I want to give an honorary shout out to the Frontier, which is same platform. Once again, Tacoma has always stolen the front thunder from the Frontier, but like the previous generation Frontier, which they launched in like 05 and sold through 2020 something, awesome vehicles, 4-liter V6, 5 speeds. They're just indestructible apart from that slurry issue that we mentioned earlier, and I just love them. Pro 4X's manual transmission, same thing, rear lockers, look cool, big tires, cool wheels. They're just incredible 4-wheel drives. Strongly recommend them.
All right, I looked up Craigslist. I looked up Xterras.
Yeah, what you got?
You want the nicest one or you want the worst one?
Give me like the nicer ones.
All right, so here's one, a 2015 Xterra Pro 4X in this lovely blue color.
Yep.
$15,499. I think this is dealer, so I figure that's usually a $2,000 to $3,000 fee above what the going rate is. 104,000 miles. Title status, rebuilt, run far, run fast.
Okay, well, but I think what you're proving is you can get the later ones for like the mid-teens.
Here's a rounded light one.
Yeah, $3,000. Yeah, 03.
132,000 miles, not bad.
So the thing about Xterras is they're typically, if you are cross shopping with like FJ Cruisers, in some cases $10,000 to $15,000 cheaper for similar age and mileage to an FJ Cruiser. So these are a big winner for me. Really like Xterras. You can get them with manual transmission as well if you want to.
Here's one. I just found a nice one. So this one is kind of this interesting green. I would call it kind of a lime green.
Manual transmission.
Yep.
$9,500, 155,000 miles. There you go. Under $10,000.
That'd be the one that I would kind of look for.
There you go. Yeah, pretty cool. So
But let's do something else. So this is a 2011 Xterra. Can you remember this, please? With 155,000 miles. Let's go to KBB and see what it's really worth.
Okay.
Okay, so 2011, 155. So I'm going to KBB it. And a lot of you out there might be like, well, KBB's not right. But they actually do. The way KBB works is they follow sales both at the auction and at the DMV, and so they do know what these cars are selling for.
I got it right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Are you quicker than me? You're probably quicker than me on the phone. All right, so 155,000 miles, 2011. Manual transmission, which is going to be worth less.
It's an enthusiast vehicle. It may not be worth less.
May not be worth less.
I think when they were new, that was probably true.
All right, let's see what KBB says is worth. This guy was asking what, 11,000, right?
No, 9,500.
9,500. That's right.
9,500
by owner.
Pro 4X. Yeah, Pro 4X.
Pro 4X. Yeah, that would be the only one I would look for. Just if you're going to do it, get the Pro 4X.
Okay, so we're gonna go 4-liter manual, 6-speed in green, and selling my car.
And then do private party value.
Let's see, private party value. We're gonna go good condition.
Yeah.
And survey says trade-in private party.
I'm gonna guess 3,500.
No, 5 to 6.
Okay.
So
this person is asking $4,000 over.
But here's the thing. Ever since COVID, I found KBB to be so far off the actual market. I've never seen them come anywhere close to what cars are actually selling for in the real world. They are just so far below.
I will tell you that you will pay a premium for all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive here in Colorado.
Sure.
But it's a 14-year-old car with over 100,000 miles, and I have not seen the Carfax. And I think 6,000 is kind of where I'd be comfortable paying for that thing because that car can easily have a blown transmission. It can easily have a blown head gasket. There's just so much potential. I've bought a lot of these cars, like underlying problems with it that, the sellers kind of, this is my baby, I've taken care of it. And have you ever noticed that all sellers always say their vehicles, and I'll use this word because it's the word they always use, immaculate. And yet in my whole life of buying a lot of cars, used cars, right? I don't think, have we bought any immaculate cars that you would consider immaculate? Like really immaculate? And we don't buy like concourse quality vehicles, so maybe.
Well, I think that's the problem because we're not paying the money for.
But I've heard that even if you go to Pebble Beach and go to an auction there and you buy the nicest Ferrari, you're still going to bring it home. And I believe there's going to be 7 or 8 things that you're going to have to fix on it. I do not think that there is such a thing as an immaculate used car because that's a new car. Right?
That Tahoe what we bought was pretty immaculate.
The Tahoe was good, yeah. I would call it immaculate. I would call it super clean. But immaculate's a very high bar. Anyway, I would be all in at $6,000, maybe $7,000. Like I say, $10,000 seems like a lot for this vehicle.
All right, well, let's keep going. So the next vehicle I had on my list was in the Jeep family because we have a lot of folks out there that follow Jeeps, and it's.
Tell you what, you tell them. I'll look for them online, and we'll kind of tell them what they're going for here in Denver.
So not a Wrangler,
okay,
obviously, because that's the whole purpose of this, and not even a Grand Cherokee because I think Grand Cherokees are everybody knows about them, and they're awesome. If you did want a really affordable Grand Cherokee, my choice is the WJ generation, which was sold from the late 90s to the early 2000s. Really, really cool. 4.7 V8, 4-liter inline 6.
So you're talking about a Grand Cherokee?
No. So the vehicle I'm talking about, which is highly, highly overlooked, is, everyone's going to click out now, the Liberty. The Liberty. So we have owned 2 Liberties.
We have.
In the history of this company. And there's 2 generations.
I like the round headlight one, not the square headlight one.
The early ones, the round headlight ones, are called the KJ Liberty. And then the later generation is called the KK, which is...
And we've owned both of them.
When they went to the square headlights, yeah. So part of the reason I think the KJ Liberty was never going to win the hearts of fans was it was kind of doomed from the start because it was replacing the XJ Cherokee, which went out of production in 2001. And the XJ Cherokee used a formula that Jeep purists loved and were comfortable with and just worked so well. Solid axles, inline 6-cylinder, 4-liter, and a very boxy squared off design.
Well, and they have low range, which is,
sure,
pretty crucial. So can you look at the price?
No, I'm not. We got to introduce it first.
All right.
So then Jeep launched the Liberty, and all of the Jeep fans was hoping for an update of the solid axle design, another inline 6, super crazy longevity, and what they ended up with was not that. Independent front suspension, V6 power or turbo diesel, as it later turned out, and then a solid rear axle and body on frame. So a lot of people dismissed it. And here's the thing about Liberties, is they got a reputation for being unreliable.
I don't think that's true.
Well, it is true because whenever I make a comment saying Liberties are kind of cool, I get 1,000 responses saying Liberties are a piece of junk.
I think the Patriot would go down that road.
Well, no, Liberties though were kind of the Patriot of 2004. So that's what Liberties.
I mean, the Patriot was just built to such cost cutting.
But so was the Liberty. I would say
Liberty felt like they had actually put some money into it, whereas the Patriot just felt like this is like, let's make the cheapest, crappiest Jeep possible, and then sell it right to the rental fleet.
You get into a Liberty, it's like stepping into a little tyke. The plastics they used inside the interior of the Liberty would not be suitable for a 4th of July cookout. That's how bad the plastics were. But the thing about the Liberty is they were, if you actually bothered to give them a look, really good off-road. They had a proper low range, and then later on in the Liberty lineup, they also gained BLD brake lock differential setups, basically, where they could torque vector, and they are durable as well, surprisingly durable.
And they also gained that Freedom Top, which we had, which always fails.
Yes, to gain the My Sky. So Liberties, and like I talked to Brendan, right? His mom had a Liberty. And she had to have a new engine installed at 50,000 miles. And I've read so many horror stories of people buying Liberties new and having them crap out at 30, 50, 60,000 miles and they're garbage and junk, never buy one. But it seems like with Liberties, if you can get them past 100,000 miles, they'll last to 250. It's like they had this weird early failure problem, but then they just kind of keep going and going and going once you get them over 120,000. So the one we had was like an 07, or for our early one, 07 I think it was, one of the last early KJ Liberties.
You want to do KBB this one?
No, it's not time yet. Because you're on the wrong. We haven't talked about that generation yet.
Oh God,
Look, they're good. They're really good. The turbo diesels are also cool. If you have a spare few minutes, go check out what the turbo.
Those turbo diesels, people ask crazy money for those,
But
they're not that great.
But they're pretty cool, and they sound super cool when you uncork them. You get this really cool turbo whistle. I like the early Liberties, and then they introduced a second-gen Liberty along with the Nitro, which kind of retained the similar basic platform V6 deal. They got rid of the turbo diesel, but they made it look more squared and chunky and a little bigger. I like those as well. So, okay, now we can do your KBB
all right,
thing.
before I do that, can I give you my take on the Liberty?
Sure.
It's like the pet rock of Jeeps. The idea of it is cool, and you kind of, and maybe you don't know what a pet rock is. Let's call it a Chia Pet. You don't know what that is, but these were like little things that people bought when I was young because they were popular at the time. So you get a pet rock, and then you take care of it, and it was fun and interesting, and then you got bored with it and threw it away. Same thing with the Chia Pet. This was this little like thing that like a sheep that you would pour water on, and plants would grow out of it, making it all furry. But I've got the one that I think is the kind of the one that you'd want. I've got a 2012 65 mile, one owner. And this is a KJ. This is a later one, the boxy one, the square. So
No, it's a KK.
KK, and it's got 65,000 miles, 2012. One owner, runs and drives amazing, super clean inside and out. Literally perfect 4x4. Dare I say immaculate. All receipts and documents in the vehicle, probably like the one you really want. On hand, Carfax in hand. Carfax in hand, everything works. And best yet, elderly owned, Tommy. Little old lady drove this to church and back.
What are they asking?
8,000.
Okay.
For the perfect one owner. Look at the sea of brown and gray inside. Oh my God, look how.
Yeah,
boring
I'm
that is.
not saying they're. Like I said, the insides are pretty bad.
I mean that is the worst material for a seat.
Let's see what this thing is worth here.
Right. 2012 65K Liberty. I'm gonna say 3,000.
8,350.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, well, this is the one we should be buying.
Yeah, KK Liberties really hold the value.
Okay, I
Surprisingly,
call me
do.
surprised.
Yeah, and the thing about Liberties is they also drive a lot like Wranglers, where they're very vertical and the windshield's cloose to you, and you get a very cool experience out of a Liberty. The ones you don't want, as my dad alluded to earlier, are they did one with an electronically sliding power cloth top, which was such a fantastic idea with the worst execution, I think, in the automotive industry. They were so bad in terms of reliability, and they had a 100% failure rate, and yeah, total mess. So that's where I'm at with the Liberty, and I'm sure we'll get some comments, but genuinely, big Liberty fan here. You can pick up an early one for like $3,000, and they are awesome to wheel. I really like off-roading them too. Small aftermarket community, but it is there. So big Liberty fan, even though the interiors are terrible and they get bad fuel economy and they're slow.
All right, can I give you now that you've had 2 of yours?
Yes.
So, in 2017, I went on a program to probably one of the nicest hotels I've ever been at, which is the Amangari in, I think it's in Arizona, northern Arizona. And the vehicle that I was driving was probably the most hated vehicle in the Land Rover lineup, and that is, of course, the Discovery 5.
Okay.
Right, so we went from Discovery to LR2, LR3, LR4, and then we went back to Discovery. And this is the one, if you look at it from the back, it basically has the asymmetrical license plate.
Sure.
And those are actually super good off-road. You can get them with a rear locker. And can I put out a little call here? In 2020, I believe, Land Rover did a Truck Edition, which basically came with a lift and a winch. And I've seen a couple. They've only built 100, I think, each dealer. Each state got 2, is that right?
I think each dealer got 1.
So maybe 50 of them?
Well, it depends on how many dealers there are.
Oh.
So, if there's 4 in California, they could each get 1.
So, that's the 2020 is the only Truck Edition of the Discovery. The next one was the Defender Truck Edition, and then they kept making more Truck Editions. I want the Discovery Truck Edition. So if you happen to know of one for sale, I am an eager purchaser of one of those. Anyway, take a look at this, dude. You'll be surprised by the price.
So you right there have made a very common mistake
What's that?
that people make.
Okay.
So that's not the car you're talking about.
I'm not. Oh, it's a Sport. I did look at the Sport.
So yes, so the
thank you.
Discovery 5 and the
I
Sport
did make that mistake,
look
yeah.
very similar. And the Sport is kind of
There you
this
go.
little rental car-y thing. And the Discovery 5 is a proper low-range
But hold on.
off-roader.
I also went. I want to embarrass myself that I made this mistake, but I also went to Iceland and drove the Discovery Sport.
Yes.
And it basically turned into, where manufacturers take a vehicle that's iconic, like the Wrangler, and then they make a cheaper, less iconic version of it to kind of rub off some of that mystery and mystique and wonderfulness that the bigger one has.
Just don't use Wrangler, Bronco and Bronco Sport.
Well, Wrangler also works.
No, because there's no smaller Wrangler with the same name.
Liberty?
So, no. I think the Bronco and Bronco Sport.
Right, all right.
It's literally the same, Discovery
Right.
Sport, right? So it's not that it's a bad car, it just doesn't have the same off-road chops.
So there we have a 2017. What? How many miles? So that's the first year. Discovery. By owner asking $22,000.
How many miles?
It's got 75,000 miles.
75,000. All right, let's see what KBB says.
Selling as we have our daughter going off to school in the fall, so we don't need it anymore. Clean Colorado title in hand, Tommy. Third row. Charcoal gray exterior with black leather interior.
See, I have also made the same error. I put Discovery Sport, and I got to start all over. It's easy to do.
Well, the Discovery Sport is kind of the family.
It's fine.
It's fine.
The best-selling vehicle by a big margin is how many miles on this thing? 75,000.
75,000.
Is the Discovery Sport. They sell a lot of them, and they're okay. They're fine. Okay. So we're gonna go HSE. It's an HSE.
It does not say.
I think it's an HSE by the wheels.
Go with HSC.
Okay, we're gonna go.
That's the
standard
one with all
equipment,
the bells and whistles.
Gray. So this was probably a $70,000
Yeah.
car when new. $75,000.
Yeah.
Let's see. We're gonna go very good. Sure.
Always go
later.
good.
Private party survey says 17.5.
Yeah, exactly. And go good, it'll be 15.5.
Yeah. Here's the thing.
Land Rovers just don't hold their value, period. They depreciate like rocks.
So the Discovery nameplate, right?
Right. You seem annoyed with me, Tommy.
Well, I just don't love the 5. Discovery 5.
If that's fair. I'm not saying you should love it. I don't like the Liberty, but I wasn't disgusted with you when
Well, I'm
you
not
threw it out there.
No, I'm not disgusted with you. I just, as the problem.
I mean, these are overlooked, so they're going to be, not loved.
So, yeah, the Discovery 5 replaced the
We
LR4.
lost our little thing there.
And the LR4 is one of the best combinations of capability and luxury, I think, in the world. And it had this kind of square-jawed, good-natured look about it. Then they came out with the Discovery 5, which you have famously described as looking like a suppository.
That's horrible. Our thing is just
Yeah, it's
completely
broken. The adapter died, so we'll just turn it off.
Okay.
You've described it as looking as a suppository because it's not a good-looking car.
It's kind of grown on me. That was Jerry McGovern designed that.
Yes, and he didn't do a good job.
I think he did. I think when it first came out, I thought it was kind of
Why then is an LR4 worth more than a Discovery 5?
because it's more square jawed and it's
Because
less
people like them
rounded.
more, yeah. I mean, mechanically, they also have problems.
They all have most of them have that supercharged 6-cylinder, which is actually an 8-cylinder where they've blocked off the last 2 cylinders.
Yes, and like LR4s were famous for having major timing chain issues with that engine. And I think 5s probably fall into that same category.
They put that thing in everything. They were in Jaguars. They were in everything.
And they were having major catastrophic timing chain problems in Jaguars too. It just wasn't a very good engine. And then that combined with the looks and also the fact that so in an LR4, all of the LR4s, except for some of the very last ones that came to the US, had standard low range, which you need for off-roading. And Discovery 5s, only very few of them have the low range.
Yeah, be sure if you're looking for one to look at the center console because there is a little button that activates low range, and if it's not there, which Tommy's right, it's not in a lot of them, then you don't want that one.
And they also
Let me see if this one has it.
They also made air suspension optional. And if you don't get the air suspension,
I think the first year they all had air suspension.
I think you're right. The first year they did, but if you don't get the air suspension, then you end up with basically a big, ugly Subaru.
See, here's the problem. This one doesn't even show you the center console, so I don't know if it has the locker or not.
Yeah, and then they all had like these huge wheels on them.
I mean, I'm 4 low, sorry.
So if you want to put, off-road tires on them, you have to change the wheels immediately.
Can you tell by that if it has it or not? It's pretty blurry.
Yeah, I think that one does have it.
Yeah.
So I just they're fine. I think you're right about them being hidden, but the community hasn't really embraced them as much as like an LR4 and LR3 or Disco 2. So it's fine.
I think $75,000 down to $17,000
It's really good.
is a heck of a price. See if that thing come back to life. Try it again.
The problem is though, why would you want a $40,000 Trek when you can just get one for $17,000 and have the same exact experience?
Because the Trek is cool.
Yeah, but it's the same car.
We're struggling here to make our equipment work.
It is the same car for twice the money.
No, it's not. It's got stickers on it, Tommy.
Oh, bold new graphics. Another casualty of the sticker group.
Actually, it's got a lot more than that. It's got a lift. It's got that built-in winch is like $7,000.
Sure, but you could still put that on a $17,000 one.
No, you can't.
Yeah, you can.
You're not gonna find a built-in winch, factory winch for a 2020 Land Rover Discovery.
I did on mine. It's just mounts behind the bumper. It replaces
you found some crappy aftermarket thing.
No, that's what they are. They weren't made by, I think they were supplied by Lucky 8, who did them.
You think so?
Yeah. And the lift I could lift that car for free. It's just a plug a thing in and raise the air
I don't take a dump on what
I'm not taking a dump. I just don't understand the reasoning behind
I could have taken a much stronger dump on that Liberty, Tommy, having owned both of them.
Sure.
I can tell you the best day of my life was when we sold them.
Yeah, I think a lot of Land Rover people would agree. No, if you're going to buy a Land Rover, Dad, you got to get my Land Rover, which is an LR3. That is the best Land Rover. You've said it yourself. Only 4 years to get.
Until this summer, when both Alex and Case bought one, and both of them, the bed.
No, that's not true.
They did the bed.
No, Alex bought a Discovery 2. Or Case bought a Discovery 2, which is known for being...
They all have bad engines. They all have head gasket issues.
No, they don't, Dad.
They do, because they kept...
Dad, the Discovery 2s
Yes, that's what I said. They all have head gasket
But
issues.
LR3s do not have head gasket issues. The LR3 does not use that engine. It's a totally different engine. It's a whole different thing.
Right. It's because BMW bought them and they changed out the engine. The LR2, Discovery 2, had that old Buick engine, and they kept increasing the size of the bore.
Yes,
and then they put sleeves in, and then those sleeves would break, and then they would basically take out the head gasket.
Well,
and they all had that issue.
If you have slip liners, 100%. Yeah. Discovery 2s, you're right, are a mess. LR3s use a Ford powertrain, the 4-liter V6, and then they use an AJ V8 4.4 in the V8, which lasts a bajillion years. Those things are indestructible.
All right, what's your next one on the list?
Well, next on the list...
Here, while you do that, I'll try to fix this thing that's going on.
I have the clicker here. It's just not working.
Right, turn it on. You keep talking. I'll try to fix it.
Yeah. So, next on the list, I think... You going to go there?
There you go. Is it HDMI 1? Too many HDMIs on all these TVs.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, we're back
in business. See.
So another vehicle that I think is becoming more appreciated now, but is the first generation Volkswagen Touareg.
Yeah, we had that.
Or
I agree.
Touareg, yeah.
And I've been seeing. We were the first to get the Cayenne as well. Remember, I spent like 2 months trying to get the Cayenne with the off-road package. Really impossible to find in the first generation. I mean, I went through so many Vindicators trying to find it with the off-road package, and after like maybe 1,000 of them, I found one, and they were asking so much for it, and of course they didn't even know that it had the off-road package, but both Cayennes, and the reason I bring it up, and the Touareg were basically the same chassis. So, one was Porsche, one was Touareg. They both had a low range, and they were exceptional off-road. First gen only.
Yes, you got to get the first gen because then
what are the years on those?
They lost the. It's like the.
I can wiki.
No, the Volkswagens were like 04 through, like 2010. I think was the end of the T2. 2011 maybe.
And it would be the same thing for the Porsche.
And it was pretty similar, yeah. But it's the really ugly Cayennes and then the really kind of fairly boring looking Touaregs. But you can get them with locking rear diffs. You can get them. They all had the low range, which is great. Air suspension, which can go up to like 10.8 inches of ground clearance. So they were awesome, magnificent pieces of technology, very unreliable, which is why you really don't see a lot of them out there, but pretty cool actually. And yeah, like you said, Dad, we did a really good series on them, and a lot of folks watched them.
2002 was the first year of production, and it also shared a chassis with the Q7.
Yeah,
So-
but the Q7 I don't think ever got the low range in the US.
You want me to try to find one on Craigslist? See if you can even
They're
find
like
one anymore?
$4,000. Yeah.
I'll look. I'll see if I can find one. But yeah, the first gen are pretty hard to find nowadays. They also had
2010, yeah.
I mean, it was under what's his name?
Ferdinand Piech.
Piech, yeah, and it was like a moonshot. So if you got the right one, it had that 4.2 liter V8, which we had, and my God, the technology in that thing was off the hook.
Yeah, it was awesome. I think the first year in the US was, could you get 2003 or was it 04?
Well, Wiki says 2002. In Volkswagen Bratislava plant, as a Czech person, I know where that is.
Interesting.
But I don't know if that's in Europe or if that's in America.
So yeah, but they were really interesting.
The 7L
Yeah, they were really interesting pieces of technology and engineering.
to 2010, dude.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
2010, yeah. I think I said 11. I was wrong about 11, but 2010 for the T2s. Yeah, and you could even get them with that legendary V10 twin turbo diesel.
Oh God, yeah. That for a while, those were like the in thing, and then of course that engine. If you want to do, I think it's an alternator. You got to pull the engine. It's just
No, it's I think so. The alternator's in the V of the engine, but I think if you want to do a starter, it's an engine out
it's
job.
one of those, yeah.
Yeah, it's a huge job. But yeah, Touaregs are really cool, and if you can put up with the maintenance, they're worth it because they are some of the most comfortable, refined vehicles on the road even today. They're that good.
I can't spell them. I always forget. Touareg.
Yep.
Sorry, Touareg.
Yep. So here I can find them for you, Dad.
I can get it.
Got it?
REG. Yes, I got it. Give me a sec here. I got it. All right, I'm looking for. Here's one. So you're right. Here's a 2004 Touareg 4x4 with 167,000 miles. It's in red, and it's selling for $4,700.
And I bet it's lifted. A lot of these now are.
They had air suspension, right?
Yeah,
It's got some pretty badass wheels on it.
No, I see that. Yeah, 167,000 miles. Yeah, very cool. So
They're white wheels that kind of look like rally style wheels.
oh, this is the one I want. Look at this.
What?
Touareg V10 TDI with the rear locker.
They should be free because you're
15
buying a liability.
$15,000. Isn't that cool?
They're
Look at
still
that.
they're
Look at
still
that.
way above what they should be. How many miles?
176,000.
It's like this. It's like buying this car, Tommy. It's the same problem.
Yeah, Phaeton.
Phaeton. It's like buying a Phaeton V8. Same problem. You're just buying a liability with
Yeah,
that
but this
Touareg.
one's got the rear locker. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, Touaregs I think are really, really fantastic, and if you can keep up with the maintenance, they are definitely a vehicle worth considering.
I would go, if you're really going to go that route, go with the turbocharged Porsche Cayenne. Why not?
Sure.
Go big. If you're going to go big.
But the diesel, the Cayenne was only a V8. That's a V10, which is even cooler.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Go
know?
big. Go big.
Okay, so let's say you have.
Can I do a little story here before we
Sure.
keep going? And you were part of this, so you'll appreciate this. So Tommy and I decided to go to like a local cars and coffee in Boulder. I think it's called Fueled. And it's in this location, which is
Fuel Fed,
which is in this location in downtown Boulder, kind of by Lolitas if you're in Boulder. I used to live down there, so I know it very well. And I've been down there a few times. And as you know, Tommy, we just purchased a BMW i8 that I picked up in Anchorage and drove all the way down the Alaskan Highway, which is a bucket list thing that I've always wanted to do. 3,500 miles back to Boulder. So there's nothing like falling in love with a car by driving it 3,500 miles through some pretty cruddy roads. And if you want to see how that turned out, head on over to All TFL because we're publishing, I think, 4 or 5 episodes of that every Sunday on TFL Car. Anyway, so me and Tommy are driving down Broadway, heading to the a car show, and I was super excited. I had fallen in love with this thing. And let's face it, the car show is meant to be for like 25-year-old European cars.
Yeah.
But that has not necessarily been written in stone. In the past, I've seen a lot of different cars there that aren't those. And in fact, there were cars like that. We'll talk about what cars were there. And Tommy and I were driving down, and then there was this older gentleman in a 944 convertible that passed us, or we passed him, and we were like, we got the better car. You know, I was feeling but he was cool. And then I go to Tommy, I'm like, hey, I think he's going to the fuel-fed Cars and Coffee as well. And we follow him. My friend James is there. He's got a Del Sol, which is also kind of a weird classic. That's also kind of a forgotten gem, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
What, Targa?
Yep.
Kind of cool. Anyway, and so we pull in behind them, and then they had blocked off one side, and there's maybe, 50 spaces there or less, would you say?
Yep.
And so we pull in from the south side, and the gentleman in the 944 drives right in, and then the guy who was like letting people in just stops me and said, "Oh, we've got a special place for you to park," and basically put us off to the side.
Yeah, but I figured out why.
Okay.
Because they actually sent an email out later about explaining the situation.
Please tell me.
So basically, it's a curated show, right? And following years of quietly taking over 8th Street, we finally grew large enough to involve the city of Boulder to close 8th Street to traffic. This will continue going forward. I really appreciate everyone's understanding in the new traffic flow and a little tighter scrutiny of the 25-plus-year-old European vehicles. Now that space on 8th Street is at a premium, we have sufficient classic European vehicles to capacity. I will continue to be more strict on which vehicles enter that space. However, I do love the newer vehicles and the occasional non-qualifying very special car. Therefore, we will continue to provide parking spaces immediately outside the entrance along Walnut. This became almost a car show in itself with Porsche GT4s plural, a Ferrari 458 Speciale, an early 911S ETC. I'm also investigating additional overflow parking.
So what year was the Lexus LFA? Was that is that 25-year-old? Because there was a Lexus LFA right inside. And then how old is the Alfa Romeo 4C? Is that 25 years old?
No.
How about a Packard, Tommy? 1948 Packard.
Well, that is 25 years or older.
European classic.
Sure.
Woody, a Woody Packard. And how about a Model A Rat Rod? How old is that?
No, that he wasn't allowed in.
Oh, he wasn't allowed in.
Yeah.
So you have to be either a Packard Woody, Alfa Romeo 4C, or an LFA. But that was my problem with it, right? I completely respect what they're saying, but then don't let the LFA in, don't let the two 4Cs in, and I'm sure there were more cars that didn't meet that apparently strict criteria. And I gotta also say, Tommy, getting rejected feels pretty crappy. I was so excited to show that car. I had been. In that car for 5 days, driving it from Alaska. I wanted to show how do you pronounce it? Dihedral doors, right? And then, you get to park in that special place over there where no one will ever see it.
Yeah, but I would say, Dad, if they're also turning away GT4s and a Speciale Ferrari, I wouldn't be too upset about it.
Well, I'm thinking it's maybe because of who they know as opposed to what car you're driving.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think a Speciale is a more interesting car than
because that Packard belonged to this guy by the name of Thibault, who owns half of all of Boulder real estate. And so, special treatment for special people, and the rest of us are kind of like, eh.
Listen, if a Speciale is also getting rejected, I don't think I'd be upset about it.
Well, if Thibault was driving it, it would be.
Well, we don't know that for sure.
I'm just saying, if you're going to do that, then actually stick to the rules and don't have two 4Cs, don't have an LFA, and obviously, and there was also a Datsun B210. That really meets those rules.
Right. Well, look, it's not our show, right? He can kind of do whatever he wants. It's his show.
And I know I'm sounding like I'm grumpy about this, and I promise not to be grumpy anymore on these, but I just felt really.
You're not doing a great job, Dan.
I agree. I'm not doing a great job, but I was so psyched to be there, and I was really feeling happy, and I was like, wow, we made it all the way, from Alaska in this really cool car, and then, can't come in. I would say if you're running a Cars and Coffee and you want to make it quote unquote curated, you're going to probably anger a certain percentage of your car loving fans. And then the other thing I have to say, and this may be a little controversial, especially for all of you fans of Spike's Car Radio, once you've seen one Porsche 356, you've seen them all.
Yes, I would agree with that.
They're kind of the same car. How many of those can you oh, wow, there's a red one, there's a white one?
Listen, the reason I'm not upset about it is I later learned the show is tailored toward 25-year-old, European cars.
Yes, of course.
And that was 95% of the cars in that pen. Apart from the 4Cs and the LFA.
Datsun.
Yeah, but the rest of them were 911s and
Packard.
BMW 2002s and Volvos. There's a lot of old Volvos in there. So it was more or less a show for 25-plus-year-old. And then we have plenty of 25-year-old or older German cars.
Yeah, and last time I was there, we have an 87 Porsche 911 that I could have brought.
Sure.
But I was so excited to bring, my new toy.
Well, I think you kind of brought the wrong car. I mean, that's the show for 25-plus-year-old cars.
I'd have no
cars.
problem with that if that was strictly curated, if that was the rule.
Well,
it seemed pretty haphazardly curated.
Listen, there was like 9 people at this show, Dad. I don't think we need to make a big deal about it. It was so tiny. It is what it is. We won't go next time. It's okay.
All right, what's next on our list?
Okay.
I'm trying not to be grumpy, so I'm moving on.
Okay, next on our list, I just wanted to give a shout out if you do have a relatively small amount of money. Any of the GMT 400 or 800 Silverados, Suburbans, Yukons, whatever, like through the 90s and the early 2000s are so cheap these days. You can get them with the G80 locking rear diff. They're really, really reliable. Yeah, they're not going to go rock crawling as well as some of the other vehicles that we'll talk about today, but they are excellent if you just want a cheap way to go hit the dirt.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What year did we buy that Tahoe? What year?
98, I think.
Yes, we bought this pristine Tahoe, and I hate to say this, but it was too nice off-road. We did off-road it, but it hurt because somebody had, when I say loved, we've learned that sometimes people love cars and sometimes they love the idea of the car. This person loved that car, right? This thing was babied. You opened up the hood and underneath there you could eat off the engine. I mean, there was not a spot of oil, not a spot of dust. Everything worked on that thing, and it had over 100,000 miles, I believe. In fact, it was so nice that Andre bought it for his father.
Yeah, right. Excellent car. I think his dad was really excited about it. GMT 400 or the later 800s are super long lasting, easily blow right past the 200,000 mile mark, and some of my favorites on the road.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, really good. So, they're big and they're comfortable and they get bad fuel economy, but they really last a long time. And then if you do want something a little bit more off the beaten path too, and you have a small budget, I just give a quick shout out to some quick trucks that are often overlooked. Ford Rangers, any of the earlier generations, or even the previous gen now, are excellent four-wheel drives, really good off-road. And
you're taking Andre's lightning here.
Yeah, I know, but a lot of the good budget off-roaders are going to be trucks, right?
They are going to be trucks.
Dakotas are pretty cool too, right? Same thing.
God, they've just disappeared. Have you seen a Dakota? I have not seen a Dakota.
No, that's a good point.
I remember we reviewed one, must have been 12 years ago, and they have completely, like, either they rusted or they were used up. But man, I have not seen a Dakota. And speaking of which, will they ever build? I mean, this is one of the big questions. Will there be a new Dakota coming?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not one on the horizon.
No.
And there really needs to be because that segment's just blown up and Ram is super behind.
And by the way, I forgot to say this, but it's important. There are rumors flying out there, and I think these are substantiated rumors that Nissan will bring back the Xterra.
Yes, I could see that happening.
I could see that. Yeah, I've heard it, and oftentimes people who love these kind of forgotten old cars often hope for the manufacturer to bring it back. But I've heard through my sources, and I think they're right, that this car is actually coming back, and it makes a lot of sense. It should have came back like 5 years ago, but better late than never.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And then
how about the Via-Cross?
That is
Isuzu Via-Cross.
Well, yes, in all seriousness, Isuzu does do some pretty cool off-roaders.
They do. And I picked the Via-Cross because that's the most unusual, but there are better ones than that.
Yeah, like the Trooper is an awesome...
Nathan loves Troopers.
Awesome vehicle, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that category of kind of 90s Japanese vehicles...
Pajero for all of you
No, that's Mitsubishi.
Yeah. So what's the Mitsubishi version of the Pajero?
Montero.
So Trooper and Montero, I kind of put them in the same bucket.
Yeah, I do agree. They're not the same car, to clarify.
No.
But they do fall into that same bucket of an affordable four-wheel drive. Yeah, we've never owned a Mitsubishi in the history of this company. We've never done anything with Monteros. Nathan loves them, and I think that they're really cool, especially some of the older ones, like from the late 80s to early 90s. Those are fantastic, the really square ones that the Dodge Raider was based on. Really cool. I was thinking more on this list for like post-2010
I'm
vehicles.
going too far back, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. Another one on my list, Chevy Colorados, the older ones. Just saw a fantastic build on one going to Fort Collins the other day. Really cool, clean rear bumper end, nice lift, long arm suspension.
Lasers?
Awesome. A little too old,
yeah, 90s.
but the whole Hummer thing, I think, is so underappreciated. Especially
Yeah, I agree. Those Hummers, not Humvees, Hummers.
H3s in specific are amazing off-road with front and rear locking diffs based on the Colorado platform, which is mentioned. Yeah, and the 5-cylinder engine wasn't great and the interiors are bad and you can't see out of them. All really bad things.
But GM, if you look at some of the early reviews, and there's even early videos of those, they did the launch program in Moab.
That's right. Good point.
Just like the current Hummer, GM put a lot of engineering behind the vehicle. So like the current Hummer EV has kind of this reputation of just being this, very heavy, overpriced electric toy. But there's a lot of engineering behind it in terms of off-roading. We actually spent a day wheeling the latest version of the Hummer EV SUV. It's a mouthful. And I was shocked by just how capable it is. And the same thing holds true for the first gen.
Yeah, love Hummers. They're really, really good. H2s are also good. They got a really bad rap for just being rebodied Tahoes, which was not at all true. They used a whole different frame, high clearance. They used a lot of HD components in the H2s, but H3 specifically, there is a community of them out there, or so I've heard, who really wheel them hard, but you never see them on trails in our areas. And you really kind of disappeared altogether. You don't see a lot of Hummers anymore, just in general. But H3s are phenomenally cool. So one of my favorites.
Yeah, let's talk about like some that you might think would be overlooked, but they're not. I think any of the Lexus, either the GX or the LX, they've both
been discovered,
and now they have a huge community around it. Specifically the GX, right? That's kind of your kind of unheralded to the off-roader with the tuxedo on, but people know about those, at least here in Colorado, maybe not so much in other places, but I see a lot of those out there with lifts and with bumpers and snorkels and all the good stuff.
I mean, same thing with any Land Cruiser, right?
Yeah, Land Cruisers,
common.
that boat has left.
Yeah, that especially 80 series are so expensive. Yeah, the Toyota stuff is tough. There's not a lot of hidden gems. I mean, I think that one other hidden gem, so I've been really focusing on...
Can we do future hidden gems? I've got some ideas about that,
Well,
too.
before we get there, I really wanted to focus on like vehicles that have a proper low range, which in my mind makes them something that is more off-road ready.
That knocks out like 80% of everything.
Yes, but there are a series of kind of hidden crossovers that are worth noting, like the Jeep Cherokee Trailhawk.
Okay.
Jeep Cherokee Trailhawks, proper low range with the locking rear diff. Really impressive four-wheel drive vehicles.
It feels like all roads lead to Jeep, but I agree that Cherokee, not the XJ, is that the square body one?
No, the KL Cherokee.
You touched it again, Tommy.
Well, our wire has gone bad here, Dad. I think is the problem. Our wire is...
I think if you breathe on it, it all goes...
Yes, we need to get a new equipment
It all goes
here.
south, yeah.
That's okay. Here, we'll turn it off again.
Okay, let's turn it off. We're almost at the end of this anyway.
Yeah, so like
Wait,
KL...
what did I get wrong? What's the old Cherokee?
XJ.
Yeah, so what's wrong with those? That's what I meant. I said not the XJ because that's obviously been discovered.
Yeah, so the KL Cherokee is the one from like 2014.
Right, yeah. The last generation before they killed it off recently.
Yeah, those are awesome.
Those are actually awesome. And let's look one up. Let's see how much they cost.
Yeah, so
I'm curious.
Yeah, we should look one up. I'd be curious.
They got a bad rap. I think the engine was kind of eh.
Yeah, well, the 9-speed was a big problem on Cherokees. It was just not a good transmission. But if you can get the Trailhawk, they are very good off-road. So really like Trailhawk Cherokees.
All right, I'm looking. Here's one, 2021 for $26,000. That's still a lot. I think you have to go back farther. What was the first year on these?
2015, 2014, something like that.
I'm looking for like one of the. Okay, I found a 2015. Here you go. So 2015 Jeep Cherokee Sport.
No, you got to get a Trailhawk. Here we go. I got one right here. 2015 Cherokee Trailhawk. Let's make sure this guy's not outrageous on his price. He's at $17,500 for this one.
Whoa, he's outrageous on his price. I can already tell you.
116,000 miles. Should we see?
Yeah, that is a $7,000 car.
Once again, Dad, I think you're a little low because people love Jeeps.
Okay, well, there is a Jeep tax here in Colorado. But yeah, that's a 10-year-old car, Tommy.
Let's take a look. So 2015 Trailhawk.
Anything over 10 years old, if you go over 10K on it, it's probably overpriced.
It's white.
A lot of latitudes out there. I'm looking for the Trailhawks.
Selling my car. Let's see what the
and always go good, never go very good.
Okay.
They're never very good.
Good.
Yeah.
And maybe later. Cherokee Trailhawk, private party. Let's see. Yeah, 9. Yeah, you're closer than I was for sure. So that guy's way off his rocker. So, but for $10,000 or thereabouts, here's one for $10,000. These are excellent four-wheel drives. They're pretty good on gas, all things considered, and they're pretty comfortable, and they hold a decent amount of stuff. Not the highest quality things ever made, but they're awesome off-road when you get the Trailhawks.
Why do you think Subaru, which builds all these, I would say now, very serious off-roaders, when you get to the wilderness, why don't they ever go with the low range?
Because they're not very serious off-roaders. They look like serious off-roaders.
Yeah, so you lift them, but you don't give them the one thing that you need. There's two ways that you can tell if it's a serious off-roader. One, the tires, right, because that's where the dirt hits the tire, and two is a low range. Without those two things, you can do all the CVT magic. Like our Renegade has that issue, right? So what the Renegade does, which is kind of clever, is when you put it in, we have the Trailhawk, when you put it in 4 low, and I'm doing air quotes here because it's not a real transfer case, it locks it in first gear, and first gear is a very low granny gear. It's basically like having a granny gear.
And so I disagree a little, Dad.
Yeah.
I think you're right on with the low range. You got to be able to multiply that gearing for off-road situations. Not the tires, though, because that's easily changed. So like Tacoma TRD off-roads from a few years ago had the worst tires on them, those stupid Kevlar Duratrax.
Yes.
But they're very good. The two things you need in my book that demonstrate the genuine four-wheel drives from the wannabes are low range and recovery points. So the Subaru Wilderness have these funny little like yellow covers which indicate where the recovery points should be, and then you have to pull them off and screw a thing in, and it's like a tow eyelet thing, which I just do not trust. If a vehicle doesn't have integrated recovery points from a factory, it tells me that this is a vehicle not intended to be recovered regularly. This is a vehicle that's not intended for extreme off-road use.
So I'll give you a little inside information for all of you who are listening to this. We are in the process of ordering a Maverick because they just came out with a new one. And for the first time, this is mind-blowing. You can get the all-wheel drive with the hybrid.
Great.
So you can get like 40 mpg.
Sweet.
And you can get it with all-wheel drive, which is wonderful. But we were debating on whether we wanted to get the cheapest one there was because we like doing stuff that's affordable. So we wanted to see if we can get the XL or the XLT. And then I said, well, Andre wanted to get the XL because that would have been around $31,000 with Steely's. And I was like, let's get the XLT because then I believe you get recovery points.
Yeah, sure.
And so that to me was, like you said, such an important thing that I'd rather step up to more of a $35,000.
XLT doesn't get recovery points.
Was it the FX off-road?
FX4.
You sure?
Yeah. That XLT is just like a slightly
Go
nicer.
look. Let's go look. Go look on the configurator. I'm curious.
I don't think it does.
I know that the XL doesn't get it.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
think.
the XL had Steely's, but let's see if you need to go with the FX4 to get the recovery points.
Yeah, I don't think the standard one does.
Well, we'll find out. We'll configure it very quickly here, and we'll let you know. But anyway, so we're getting that. We want to be one of the first to get the newest version, so we're ordering ours, and so we're kind of trying to work with the dealer to tell them what we want, so that we'll have it before the end of the year.
Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
XLT. Yeah, nothing.
No recovery points.
No.
So if you had the FX package, then you get them.
All-wheel
FX4.
drive. Yeah, see, you just get the plain front end.
And what if you do the FX4?
FX4 is going to get the recovery.
The problem is you can't get FX4 with hybrid.
Yeah.
You got to get the bigger engine.
So FX4 is going to have them.
Does it have them?
Yep, right there.
Ugh.
Yep.
Come on, Ford. No, you can't get the off-road stuff with the hybrid.
Yep, that's right. So they don't want the hybrids going off-road.
Why?
Well, it could be gearing, it could be
Well,
torque.
it's got a CVT.
Yeah, it could be longevity. There you go. So the hybrid is not an. So we're not
They
going to.
give it with one hand and they take it with the other, Tommy.
Yeah, we're not going to be taking this one off-road. Yeah.
Well, you can take it off-road, just not very far.
Just don't want to get stuck because you're not going to be pulling it out. So yeah, so we're going to be just getting basically a standard FX4. It looks like.
Yeah, XLT.
XLT.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, not FX4. You're right. XLT.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's always a problem with. That's what's different between the Maverick Tremor. I mean, there's a couple of vehicles I think that are bucking the need for a low range
Is there a Tremor in the newest version of it?
for moderate off-roading, and that's vehicles like there's a Tremor.
Okay, can you get that? Can you get the Tremor? Let me know.
Yep.
Okay, can you get it with the all-wheel drive hybrid?
No.
No, you can't get it with the hybrid.
No.
You sure?
Yes, not an option.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yep.
there you go.
Yep.
I'll have to wait for the generation.
Yeah, I think you might. So, like, there's a couple of vehicles in that crossover segment that do offer genuine capability without the low range. And that's vehicles like the Bronco Sport with
Yeah, I agree.
Twin clutch rear
I
end.
would say the Bronco Sport is the most off-road available new car that you can buy without a differential and a low-range transfer case.
I mean, I would say
What's more off-road worthy that doesn't have a low range?
Passport Trail Sport is amazing off-road. It's really, really good. Same thing with the Pilot.
I agree, but I don't think it's as good as the Bronco Sport.
It's pretty close. I think for me it's pretty close. And now, like
it's also got this funky recovery point that's kind of hidden underneath the bottom.
Yeah,
it's like an afterthought.
As good, I agree.
Yeah.
But for what it is, it's a really capable vehicle. I actually think the iVTM4 is as good as the Ford all-wheel drive system. Some of the angles and stuff aren't quite as good though. But yeah, Passport Trail Sport is up there. But like a lot of them, like the Rock Creek Nissans and the TRD Off-Road RAV4s, like there's a whole
and the Adventure RAV4. None of that is really
basically just
appearance packages.
Yeah, appearance packages. Stickers.
Like better colors and more rugged material.
And that's why I think
and more rugged tires.
But that's why tires is deceitful because they put
yeah.
like sidewall on them. And they're
Hyundai-
like, look, it's an off-roader. It's not an
Hyundai
off-roader.
does that too.
Yeah, XRT, anything
Yeah.
XRT.
And what's the Kia version? Pro?
X-Pro.
X-Pro, yeah.
So those aren't really all that good, capable. But the Bronco Sport and the Passport Trail Sport and the Pilot Trail Sport are genuinely good. And I haven't tried the Explorer Wilderness stuff very much. I don't know much about those.
All right, before we run out of time, let's talk about future hidden off-roaders. I can tell you one right now, and this company goes out of its way to actually promote how good it is off-road, and they are good off-road, but nobody takes them off-road, or very few.
Okay.
And it's an electric. And they do both a truck
Oh,
and...
the Rivians?
Exactly.
Yeah, those are good.
I think the Rivians are actually exceptional off-road. I wouldn't do the 4-motor. We've taken that off-road, and it still struggles because, well, it's the programming is hard. You're better off with the dual motor with the lockers.
Yes. No.
No?
Can't get a dual motor with lockers.
Really? Can't get lockers?
No.
All right, then here's another one. Cybertruck, dual motor lockers.
Yeah, that is good off-road.
Yeah, that is good off-road.
No,
better than the Cyber Beast.
Rivian
actually.
does have a good brake program system though on the dual motors, which I do think makes it just as good as a quad motor. So I wouldn't shy away from the dual motors; those are really good.
And then Scout is coming back.
Yeah, Scout should be really cool. I think that's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What else is really good now that nobody's buying?
The new GX Overtrail is
Yeah,
I've
but
heard
everybody's
is-
buying those.
Is really good.
People are
yeah.
really excited about those.
The Land Cruiser is really good. We've taken that
Sure,
off-road.
yeah, those are going to be everywhere
Yeah.
too, I think. Grand Cherokee is pretty good, actually, depending on the trim, like a Trailhawk Grand Cherokee. It's really good.
Maybe.
Yeah, anything with Trailhawk on it is usually okay. But I mean, there's a kind of the line's been blurred between what we think is an off-roader and what's a soft-roader, and they're trying to make the soft-roaders look more convincing. But when you tear the skin back, usually it's just bold new graphics. And
And I'm mentioning electric vehicles because that's kind of the biggest wave.
Oh, Hummer EV.
Hummer EV,
The
yeah.
2024 model or update is much better than the previous versions, especially the SUV. That's going to be one that we look back at as being really good off-road.
Is that technology going to make its way down to like the Blazer EV, you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's all Ultium, right?
Yeah. No, I'm saying the off-road technology that's in the Hummer EV.
Well, the Blazer EV now is a street car.
I know, but I'm saying, is there going to be a version of that'll be off-roady?
I
Because the
mean-
Blazer was ZR2, Blazer ZR2, right? There is
Yeah,
a
right.
heritage
Right.
of building off-road Blazers.
I don't know.
And how about the big-ass Blazer?
Yeah, we haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the classic one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
anything
yeah.
like that is cool, but those are...
No, I'm saying, you're missing my point. I'm saying Blazer has the heritage to be off-roady.
Oh, well, the problem is that they are an off-road brand, and all they've been coming up with now are street cars.
Right, but it would seem logical that they would dig deep into their
Yeah, but what they're
heritage.
going to do instead is do a slightly lifted, tired, bold new graphic Blazer and call it an off-roader and say, it's our heritage, and it's not our heritage.
Right. Well, how about this trend of building like Porsches that are off-roady now?
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
With
like
the Dakar.
Yeah, I do
and
like
the
that.
Serato, Lamborghini.
It's really neat, like the rally cross kind of builds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about those? I think those are going to be future collectibles?
Yes,
Probably.
immensely so. Not really, I think, off-roaders, but they are bought by people that don't want to scrape the front ends when they go up curves.
Unless you're a billionaire and you live in Utah.
Yeah, right.
And you wear a fake beard, then you don't seem to care about what you do with your cars.
Well, folks, let us know in the comment section what you guys think, what vehicles we're missing. We'd love to hear.
I bet you we've forgotten a bunch.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't write this down. I just started talking here today. And let us know what comments you have in the section below.
Yeah, and thanks for watching or listening, whichever way you prefer to consume your /podcast. We really appreciate it. And we especially want to thank our who, Tommy?
our sponsors,
No,
Onyx
our
Off-Road,
Patreons.
or patrons.
Patreons, yeah, patrons.
Yes. TFL Car, patreon.com/TFL Car. If you want to support the podcast, we couldn't do it without your help.
We hired a patron czar who now makes sure that we give you behind the scenes information. So if you do want to help support the team and you do want to get early access to what we're up to and you want to get videos early and we're working our way up to doing like Zooms so we answer your questions directly, head on over to patreon.com/TFL Car and we would love to have you be part of the family, not that you're not.
Yep, and we'll see you guys next time.
Ciao.